You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. This probably did not sit well with many LSU fans today. For the first time since 2000, Nick Saban's first season in Baton Rouge. Of course, LSU was coming off back-to-back sub-500 seasons under Jerry DiNardo when LSU was unranked to start the 2000 college football season. This is the same fate that this LSU team is now facing, unranked for the first time since 2000. Now, in that 2000 season, LSU wasn't great, but they did manage to pull some upsets, beating Tennessee that year in Tiger Stadium, as we all know, in overtime, and went on to win the Peach Bowl. But LSU started that season unranked and then, of course, won the SEC the next year, and Nick Saban really got the train rolling, as we all well know. There's gigantic expectation on Brian Kelly. Of course, he can't control what the pollsters do and what coaches do. I do tend to put more credence in what coaches do as opposed to what media members say, because coaches play against, coach against, prepare against other coaches and other programs. Alabama preseason number one, as we all do well know, Alabama preseason number one, and they got 54 of the 66 first-place votes. The oddity, after Bama, let's see, Ohio State had, Ohio State was ranked second, and they received 5 first-place votes. Georgia was third. They got 6 first-place votes. And oddly, Texas was ranked preseason number 18, but still managed to get a first-place vote. I would love to know. By the way, coaches' ballots are not revealed except for the final poll of the season when it's voted on for the national championship. The coaches' ballots aren't revealed, so we won't know who that was who voted Texas number one in the preseason. But I think we would all just love to know at this point. If you're curious as far as the rest of the top 25, so your top 10, Bama, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, and Notre Dame, that's your top 5. Michigan is at 6. Texas A&M, which I just don't understand, is at 7. Utah, 8. Oklahoma, Baylor, Oklahoma State go 9, 10, 11. So that trio of Big 12 teams, Oklahoma, Baylor, Oklahoma State, 9, 10, 11. If you're wondering about other SEC schools, it's a big jump until you get to Kentucky at 21. Arkansas at 23, and Ole Miss preseason number 24. Houston is 25 to round out the top 25. If you're wondering where LSU is in the dreaded also receiving votes category, but they were not first among those receiving votes. Iowa, Penn State, Tennessee, and BYU all received more votes than LSU. So if you're just going on point total or votes, LSU would have been 30th in these initial standings. I'm not mad at it. You had back-to-back 500 seasons. You played a bowl game with 39 scholarship players. You have a new coaching staff coming in that had to massively turn over your roster. Ed Orgeron left the roster a mess, left the whole situation a mess, and Brian Kelly is uprooting the whole thing and planting it anew. So I understand why people are skeptical. That much just shouldn't really be surprising to anyone. To know that there is noted skepticism about LSU. One thing that should give you, if you are an LSU fan, some degree of comfort, hope, optimism, call it what you want, is that there is at least one metric that loves LSU. Now, I'll remind you that there are those of you that crapped on the FPI from ESPN when they had LSU as an underdog in 7 games a couple of years ago. So essentially projecting 5-7. Well, this year, ESPN's FPI actually really loves LSU a lot. FPI favors LSU in 9 of its 12 games. There are 3 games where LSU has a less than 50% chance of winning. One of them, as we well know, is when LSU will play Alabama on November the 5th. FPI gives LSU just an 18% chance of winning that game. The others, October 1st at Auburn and November 26th at Texas A&M. And you might be surprised to find that it's actually the LSU has a better chance, according to FPI, of winning at A&M than at Auburn. LSU has a 44% chance to beat A&M, just a 42% chance of winning at Auburn, which might surprise you. But you've heard me say this all offseason. Going on the road and winning at Auburn and at Florida and places like that is hard. It's very hard to do. So when it gets there, we'll talk more about it. But FPI gives LSU a 71% chance of beating Florida State, a 99% chance of beating Southern, which I think we all understand. You know, my contention as we've looked at this schedule and talked about it last week is that I'm going to break LSU's schedule down into three quadrants, basically. The first four games where you play Florida State, Southern, Mississippi State, and New Mexico. You need to start 4-0. And you got to beat Florida State and New Orleans, and you got to beat Mississippi State at home. You do that, you start 4-0. And then you go to Auburn. That's the game I told you. Like, there are two games in that next quadrant. You got 2 at home and 2 on the road. You're home against Tennessee and Ole Miss. You're on the road at Auburn and at Florida. I think you need to split those road games against Auburn and Florida. If you manage to do that and win both of your home games, now you're 7-1 going into October. If you split those 4 and go 2-2, you're 6-2 going into November, which isn't a bad place to be, especially when you think about what FPI projects. Because in November, then you've got Bama, Arkansas, UAB, and Texas A&M. LSU has a 54% chance of winning at Arkansas and a 44% chance of winning at Texas A&M. Again, you split those, you beat UAB and lose to Alabama. That's how you're looking at an 8-4 season. And the way you get to 9-3 is if you take care of business in the home games you're supposed to win. Meaning, you beat Mississippi State, you beat Ole Miss, you beat Tennessee. You win the 3 home conference games that you're supposed to win. Like LSU's supposed to beat Tennessee in the Mississippi schools in Tiger Stadium. You win all 3 of those, and you manage to split Auburn and Florida. Now you're looking at a legitimate chance of going into November with a shot of being, a 9-3 football team. Or if everything falls your way and you win at Arkansas and at A&M, 10-2. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I want to be clear. I'm not predicting that to happen. But this is a metric which is far from perfect. A lot of times when this isn't in your favor, a lot of y'all have crapped on it. And I don't blame you. But it's an objective metric as opposed to someone's subjective opinion. And this objective metric likes LSU far more than many of these subjective analysts looking at this college football team. But I'm gonna circle 2 dates on this schedule. It's October the 1st at Auburn, October the 15th at Florida. If you hold serve at home against Ole Miss, Tennessee, Mississippi State, if you hold serve at home in games you should win in the conference, and you're able to split Auburn and Florida, I think that's a realistic ask. That's realistic. Then you go into November 7-1. You go into November 7-1 with so much ahead of you. I'm not going to predict LSU to beat Alabama. I don't think they will. But you'll have a chance to do something special, kind of like Michigan State did a year ago when, look, they took some embarrassing lumps in some big games. They got blown out by Ohio State, but they still managed to put together a double-digit win season and played in a New Year's Six game. I'm not projecting that for this LSU team, but that's the path to do it. All right, so coaches poll, no likey LSU. FPI very much likes LSU this year. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.